Hi there. Okay, so it's light in here. All right, so it's Kamilah Rose with the Bliss Institute, and I finally finished watching the last episode of The Boys. It's a Netflix original series. Apparently, this had been planned to be a movie, and it was picked up by Cinema. It couldn't be Cinemax. Are they still around? I don't know. Picked up by some company, and they were going to make it into a series, and it was eventually picked up by Amazon, and so now we are able to watch it. I do have to say I have never read the comics, and I'm honestly not a huge comic book reader. I am a fan of the characters and the storylines and the movies that are made from them. And I'm not just talking about Marvel Cinematic Universe now or the DC universe that's out there right now, but also like prior stories that have gone on with them. Old school, like my parents watched Superman movies, Dark Knight series, all of that fun stuff. Old school cartoons from back in the day. I'm 31, born in 87. So I was around during the Amazing Spider-Man on Fox, and like my dad recorded the old cartoons from back in the 80s from when I was little. So I watched those Spider-Man and with who's the ice one? Bobby, not that Bobby, but Iceman, and like all of that. Like I've seen those because I've seen the recordings of it. So like I have a very elementary level understanding and education in comic books and those universes. But I really enjoyed this show. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was, I liked the storyline. I liked the fact that it wasn't just like standard superheroes, like rah, rah, save the day. Although I do like that because I think it gives us hope. It gives us something entertaining to watch. But this kind of took into account what happens on the other side and like the complexity of superheroes and the people that they impact and how that would play out in more of like a real world perspective, and also like the power dynamics behind that, because you have these people who can basically just do whatever, and then you have people, normal people without powers, and like how do you balance that out? How do you keep things, that's the cat, ignore it. How do you keep things so that no one's abusing their power and people aren't being taken advantage of, but also like if we need superheroes help. But in this one, I mean, the corruption is outrageous. The way that people are taking advantage of the resources and manipulating to be able to get the outcome that they desire, particularly those who have the superhero powers, because they have that as the advantage, so they can go places and move things, and people adore them. And I love that subtle kind of look at how we are fascinated by people like celebrity and fame, and how that can change our perception, so that even when you see someone who's doing something that like looks a little iffy and seems a little strange, you're just like giving them the benefit of the doubt because of the persona around them. And they talk about like your brand. And so I'll get to the characters in a minute, but with the Deep, who is like Aquaman, I suppose, she was always like, this is your brand, you have to stay on brand, this is not who you are, this is not how we're representing you out in the public, you have to do this. Like, and it was very much the parallels between what we see now that's going on with like YouTubers and Instagrammers. And I mean, Kardashians are the perfect example, because literally like famous for what? And yet they have a brand that's based on scandal, that's based on controversy. And so that's their brand and they make it work for them. But others have a very like wholesome brand, you know, family friendly. So I really like kind of that side of things. All right, so let's get down to the characters. Let's get down to the plot. So we have, I think I'll just do the characters and then I'll go into like bits and pieces that tie them together as we go. So we have the Soups, and the Soups are the superheroes. We have Homelander, who I suppose is supposed to be Captain America. I have to say, I've never really liked Captain America. I've never watched any of his movies, so I can't really say anything about him. I don't know. There's just something about them. Just like, he just seems really boring. And I've watched all of the Avengers movies. I've watched pretty much all of the other, except for Ant-Man and the Wasp. he seems kind of boring too. So I've watched all the other movies, and I just could never get down with Captain America. I just was like, I don't understand. And everyone's like, oh well, he's just so. I guess he's supposed to be really noble and have a great character. It just doesn't do anything for me. And like this Homelander dude, he didn't do it, but I like the fact that he was crazy. Like that really worked for me. I was like, okay, you're interesting because like you're a nut. So like I want to see what you're gonna do next, because you're really unpredictable because your brand is America and justice and courage. And he makes a line about they need some John Wayne. Like you're just supposed to be like the American spirit and embodiment of freedom and justice and standing up for truth and all these other things, family and a God-centered nation and all those things. And yet, like the dude is a nut, like totally, like way out there. And so I was like, oh, this is great because he plays these different roles because he's like, this is what the people want to see. This is what keeps me where I am. This is what keeps everybody in line and keeps our overall moral support high. And yet I have all these feelings because I have all these powers. Nothing can destroy me and I can do whatever I want, but I have to survive in this world. So I'm just going to play these pieces to match up the way I want them to be so that I can get what I want in the end. And a homeboy ain't got no problem killing anybody. You get in his way. You don't listen to him. You try to make him look bad. You're gone. It's over. You're out. And I was like, intriguing. Because I think that's the thing that like honestly makes me bored with Captain America is that he's just like, he just wants to help everybody. And not that that's bad, but I'm just like, someone explain to me if you feel like it. I can look it up myself if I really want to. But like the depth of his character, that's what I'm trying to get to. Is I'm like, where is like the complexity behind Captain America where like he will, and maybe he did, was it when they didn't go into the whole Avengers thing because he didn't agree with what they were doing? Like maybe that's where that's supposed to come from, but I'm like, I don't know. Anyways, back to Homelander. So there's that one. We have, oh, I can't read my handwriting. Annie is her first name, but she plays Starlight. So she's like the new one. She's there's the 7 and they have an open space. So they're inviting other soups to try out and to join the 7. And so Annie tries out and she's going to come in as Starlight. And I'm not sure if she's supposed to be like, maybe Captain Marvel, but I get more maybe, she feels a little bit more Jubilee to me, but I'm not exactly sure what her powers are per se. I know that she has some type of impact on the electricity and she does something with the lights and she can like shoot light from places. So she has a pretty cool power. I like the complexity. Again, the complexity of the characters is what draws me in with this series because she came from a very conservative Christian background based on morals and values aligned with that ideology. She was just all about, being a good person overall is really what she was in support of. And she comes to join this group and like on her first day, the Deep, who is I suppose supposed to be like Aquaman, he like takes off his clothes and he's flashing her because she was like, oh, I had a little crush on you. And he's like, oh, all right then, well, I guess we're gonna get down. And she's like, wait, no, like this is not what I signed up for. Because for her, these were people who did the right thing and they were superheroes. They protected the people. They went the extra mile for those who couldn't do it for themselves. Like that was their purpose. And then she realized that although yes, they might have these superpowers, they are people. So they do things that aren't right. They don't always, follow the moral high ground. They might be mean people, assholes, jackasses, moody. They're people with superpowers. So she goes through kind of a journey of finding who she is because she really felt like she wasn't sure how she was supposed to fit in with the group of the 7. And she's doing tours. She's speaking at this Christian kind of festival. And she just is like, I can't really support all of this and stand up here on this stage and say all these things because it's not true. And we go through a lot and it's confusing and it's hard and we just have to try our best. So then they spin that story. So everything is about the brand. Everything is about spinning the story. So they spin that story for her to be like the person who is out here supporting people and wanting you to just be able to be yourself. And then she ends up rescuing this girl who was being raped. And so then, first it was a mess. First it was bad press because they were like, oh, now they're saying that the two boys who were about to rape the girl were saying that they were just drinking in a parking lot and she attacked them. And the video doesn't show the girl or really anything going on with the girl who was about to be raped. And then the girl stepped forward and said that Starlight saved her. And so then the story turned into this whole like girl power and you're supporting women and you're out here fighting the good fights. So then, of course, now we have to go back to the deep and he has to address possible sexual assault allegations because she talks about the fact that she was so confused about the experience that she had and having someone whip their stuff out in front of her on her first day at the job. So we get a lot of like interesting cultural references as well as the complexity of starting out in this new world and trying to, even when you're supposed to have all this power and you're supposed to be able to do all of these great things, like it doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy for you. So we'll move to the next one. Queen Maeve, who reminded me of Wonder Woman, which I thought was interesting because Queen Maeve has a woman who is her former lover. And she did not want to acknowledge her. She didn't want to be out with her. And I thought that was really interesting play on that because of the Amazons and some of the myths surrounding them that they were that they were a lesbian community and that they only, used men for sperm so that they can have children. And I was like, well, that's interesting. We didn't see as much of her character, but man, when we did, like, you could feel the pain of what she was going through and trying to, again, fit this persona that wasn't necessarily in alignment with who she truly felt that she was and the things that she wanted to do. And we also take a look at some coping mechanisms that start to come in, unhealthy coping mechanisms. And she was drinking. She was a drinker. She would go out and get drunk. And so, but she cared and she couldn't do the things that she wanted to do, even if it meant sacrificing herself. As we see, Homelander doesn't have that problem. He doesn't care. If you gotta go, you gotta go. So we see that contrast between their two characters. We have the Deep, who I said is like Aquaman, and it's what is his name? Chase Crawford, I think. He's so cute. First of all, he is so cute. And he is just hilarious. Like I don't know if his character is supposed to be funny, but I was laughing probably at him quite a bit because he was just like, he just wants to talk to his little animals. It reminds me of I'm trying to remember what that was called. It was a show and it was like a parody on these Super Friends and it had Aquaman and all he did, maybe it was just like a weird Cartoon Network thing they put on late at night. But like all he wants to do, the Deep, all he wants to do is talk to his little animal friends. He wants to shut down some water theme park and they're like, you're the spokesperson for this theme park? We can't, like, you can't shut it down. Like, you're representing the theme park. And because he's like, they're mistreating the animals. I want to free my, sea creature animal friends. He's making friends with a lobster, like, and he just seems all over the place. But like, he honestly seems so sweet. Like, but that he doesn't really get the recognition. He doesn't get the support that Homelander gets because he's not the big shot, because he's the pretty one who's just like playing with the fishes and, all concerned about the environment. So everyone just kind of like, they like him, but he doesn't get the same amount of publicity or support as Homelander does. And he seems like he's looking for that recognition. He's looking for that acknowledgement, and then he automatically gets it from these creatures who he is inherently made to protect and support. And how he really wants to seek that from the human side as well. There's a really interesting dynamic that goes on with the Deep's storyline, and we've spoken about the incident with Starlight, and then we have another one where they send him off to represent some town. He's there. They've just pretty much kicked him off the island, honestly, to kind of push him to the side because he was getting so much bad publicity because of what he was doing. And he takes some girl home, and they are about to have sex, and he has gills, because I thought he was going to be like some weird like fish thing or something going on, but it was just that he had gills, and she was like, oh my god, you're a freak, but she was like, oh yeah, we're still going to get this on. And then she's like trying to put her fingers in his gills, and he's like, that hurts, and he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And she's like, we're gonna do this. And I'm like, yo, that's like assault, that's rape. Like, it was so uncomfortable, and it was really interesting to see that scene in light of what had happened to him earlier, in light to what he had done earlier, in light to it, and just like how the narrative of the importance in acknowledging people's autonomies over their own bodies and to make their own decisions, and that the power dynamics and how that plays out in different scenarios. Because, you know, we already had him have to come out and say about what he did to Starlight, and now if he wants to come out and talk about what happened with this girl, but you know, who are people going to support him? Are they going to allow him to do that? Because is that not on brand, where he couldn't stop some girl from, you know, assaulting him and doing what, you know, and doing something that he did not want, you know? So like how that narrative plays out, especially in his continued storyline of not being heard and not being supported. We have Black Noir, which I don't really know much about him. I didn't see much about him. He was just kind of like around, and maybe it was the whole like there's always that mysterious character who's just kind of around and maybe doesn't do too much. I'm not sure. I'm sure he plays like a really big role. I'm just not aware of what it is. So if you know what it is, feel free to share more about it. I did note that like he was there, but I don't really remember much of what he did and things. And I know there's a part at the end where he steps in and he plays the piano, and he's like, it's amazing. He does a really great job. But so Translucent was one of the other characters. He was able to turn his body into carbon, and it was like a diamond, and it reflects all the light, so he was able to be invisible. And so he would kind of run around and spy on people and watch people. He was like a kind of a pervert. But he starts to pick up on what's going on the other side with the boys, who we'll get to in a minute. And that ends up getting him killed. So you have to check out how that happens. But it's a really big accomplishment because so many of the Supes have been unable to be killed. You know, they're invincible. Their bodies are just so strong that they're not able, other people haven't been able to hurt them or harm them or really destroy them. So that was like a big deal. And then we have also Ezekiel, who is a very like, he's pushing a very big, you know, conservative Christian agenda. And he's all on this whole like pray the gay away, and then they're at some club and he's like getting down with two dudes, and I was just like, what a mess. But it really does, for me, showcase more so of how we have these personas of who we show the world of who we are to get their support and to get the things that we want. And then like we have the shadow side, this other self that we hide away and that we only let out to play when it's in a safe, hidden environment, that maybe has more of the unacceptable traits that society looks down upon. And how it's about the brand. It's all about the brand. It's all about selling an image, selling a dream, selling a thought, selling an idea, and doing whatever you have to do publicly to keep that brand alive. We also have with them, so Elena was Queen Maeve's girlfriend that she had. We have Pop Claw, who was in a relationship with A-Train, and that doesn't go very well. But they had an interesting dynamic between the two of them. Did I talk about A-Train? I think I did. But A-Train is kind of like the Flash, A-Train moves really quickly. He's very fast. And so he's running around and he's like swooping in, saving folks. He can get from one place to the other really quickly. So he's running around the world. And, he's kind of the playboy type. He's the cute, like, ooh, yeah, like, and look how fast he is. And he's powerful and all of this. And so he kind of reminded me of sports stars in the whole that they wanted him to have this very like bachelor lifestyle and persona. So, he's not tied down. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He's open. If you want to come up to him and you want to have a good conversation, he can, he'll chat you up, but in reality, like he is very concerned about being able to have longevity and sustainability. Will he always be the fastest? Will he be able to maintain his role, or will someone else, another younger person come in and swoop that out from him? So like when you find someone like an athlete, when they're at the top of their game and they're fearful that they will lose that, and that is so much of their identity, and then like who are they then? And with that, he does want someone who sees him for who he is and who fully supports him. And Pop Claw is like that, but she's also kind of hidden away because she's had some issues, and we'll get to what those issues are in a moment. And he's unable to acknowledge the relationship, and that's really kind of what the core of what's going on with that, a part of it at least. And then we have, we'll get to this one in a moment. So then we have the boys. And that starts, we have Billy Butcher. And so Billy Butcher is like a quintessential bad boy. He's been through things, he's seen things, he's gone places, and now, he's back to get vengeance. And we have Huey Campbell, who is so adorable. He works at the electronics store. It's like Radio Shack, Circuit City. He's, all into the electronics, into the technology. He knows all the things. He's just right that way, but he's very kind of more subdued and a bit more gentle. And he has a girlfriend. Her name is Robin, and she's like, you got to be willing to get out there. You got to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and do the things that aren't expected of you. And so they're gonna go out to get dinner. Same old. Who and Robin, like he's standing there, he's talking to her, and then the next minute he is just holding her arms and he's covered in blood because literally A-Train ran through her. Like A-Train later on in the series describes it as hitting a fly or a bug on your car window as you're driving along the freeway. Like he just runs her down and just like keeps going, doesn't even stop, doesn't do anything about it. And Huey's just left there holding her hands. And so now we get into this theme that runs through with several other characters of grief and healing and how do you cope with loss? Because we have Huey, who's just like, my girlfriend was here 1 second and then she was gone. And how no one wants to acknowledge that she died not because she'd done anything wrong. It was circumstantial. She was in technically the wrong place at the wrong time. But really, like, she wasn't jaywalking. She had stepped 1 foot off the curb. So he was like, she shouldn't have gotten mowed down. She should have been, like, he should have been able to realize that she was in the way and go around her. But he was going so fast. And as we'll see, he was not in his right mind to be able to tell that and to be able to stop or to move around her like he should have been able to. And so she was unjustly killed. But now I tell you, the brand, the corporations, the company, the money, those lawyers are on it. They are there right after the funeral. They're like, you signed this NDA, you say that you won't sue them or try to say that it is at their fault. A-Train will issue an apology, but it will not be, he will issue an apology, but it's more like a acknowledgement that she died, but he will not be taking fault. He will not say that this is his fault, that he caused this. And so Huey is just like, and they want to give him, I think it was $45,000, which I believe this is supposed to be set in the 90s. So if it is, then that was probably a bit more than what 45,000 is worth today. But he's like, I don't want your money. Like, my girlfriend is gone. Your money won't replace that. You know, she didn't even do anything. He wasn't even like going out to try to stop anything. He was just like, out of control. And so then he's like, okay, I want an apology. I just want him to say he's sorry. And they were just like it's just a mess. So with that, speaking of Huey Campbell, his father is Simon, played by Simon Pegg, who is like, I think he's so cute. Like, I think he should, there's just something about him that's just so like attractive. And I was surprised and very happy to see him in this show because I just love him as an actor and I love the characters that he plays. And I think he does a really great job in all of his roles. And I think he did a good one in this role as well, playing like the father who has a son and a single father who has a son and he doesn't know what to do with him. I believe that Huey's mother died, but I could be wrong. So if I am, let me know. But his mother isn't there. And it seems like Simon Pegg, as his father, was just trying to figure out how to survive and make things okay. And he really just wasn't sure of what to do with like this son that was growing. And he only knew that like he liked to watch TV and that he liked to, you know, have his snacks. And that was just kind of where he stayed, and like how grief or how loss can keep us stuck in this place. Like such a great illustration of that, because we see that happen with all these other characters. We find out it's happened with Billy Butcher. We find out it's happening, like it's in the process of happening with Huey. It's happened with so many of these characters where they become stagnant. They're just stuck in this state because of the trauma and the pain that they've experienced, and then they just find different outlets to express it, and very few of them seem to be healthy outlets of expressing the frustration and the pain that they feel from what they've experienced. um, so we'll leave that with the Huey and with his father. So then we have Mother's Milk, who I really liked that character because I felt like it was nice to see a man of color in this role where he's like not playing his significant other. He's not, you know, being like the super violent or anything like that. Like clearly he has skills, but he wants to be helpful. And so I really liked his role. I thought he was funny. He was like a little bit, I felt like there was some humor in the whole show, but he was definitely just like okay, we have to get things done. He worked at it what appeared to be like a correctional facility for young boys, and he really was like in there with the boys, wanting to be involved, wanting to see them do better. And then he comes back to work with Butcher. So Butcher and Mother's Milk, and we'll get to the next character, Frenchie, all worked together before Butcher kind of went off the deep end after his wife disappeared 8 years ago. So, but we have Mother's Milk. He comes back to work with Butcher, and he's just kind of like he's just bright. He's bright. He understands people. He understands how to kind of get things done, and he is dedicated to the cause of really exposing these soups for who they really are. We get Frenchie, who is just brilliant. He's brilliant. He's like an arms dealer. He's got the technology. He's got all the connections all over the place. He's very smart, very innovative and creative, and he can just find his way out of all these things. And he adds kind of a more like flair to the group in that he speaks in French quite a bit, and he is just like he takes nothing from anybody, but in a more like violent way, I guess you could say, because he's just quick to be like, okay, yeah, I've killed people, like a more maybe an acceptance of having to do things that are morally adverse. And he's just like, this is my life. These are the things I've done. These are the experiences that I've had. I came from a really violent childhood with my father, and now like I do violent things, but I've had to come to peace with that. So I liked that complexity that we were shown there with his character. And then we have eventually Kimiko. She plays a person that they find while they're on their quest, and she is, I'm not sure what her superpower is, but man, she's she's good. I mean, she's jumping up. There is a part where she gets really beat up and she heals from it. So I don't know if quick healing is one of it, if it's super strength, something like that. But she's good. She's taking folks down. She's like, I'm standing up for my. She'll just beat you up on the way. She jumps back up. She doesn't stay down. And she doesn't talk. So they are able to find out kind of more of her past, what happened to her. She has a bond that she has with Frenchie, that how she ended up where she ended up, and her backstory, and how people end up in situations where they're doing really awful things. Like she was in a terrorist group, but it was because she was stolen from her parents at a young age and experimented on, and all of these things, because Frenchie was really wanting to go up to bat for her. But when they found out that she was in that terrorist group, they were like, oh my gosh, we knew that like something was up with her. But he was like, no, this is not who she is. I see her. I see she's different. And that's because he aligns with her because of his past and his understanding of how our pain that we experience can cause us to bring pain to other people. And so then they find out what went on with her, and eventually learn more about how she did not get to where she is now because she wanted to. It was by force. So back to Billy. So Billy Butcher has a wife, or had a wife, named Becca. 8 years ago, before the show aired and where we catch up with them, she disappeared, and he's trying to figure out what happened. He is adamant that Homelander killed her, and so now he's out to bring down the Seven, to bring down it's called Vought, I believe, and it's like Stark Enterprises, and even the building looks like the Stark building. It's great. He's determined to bring them down. He's like, they're corrupt. They're doing stuff they're not supposed to. I know they are. I know they killed my wife, and I'm here to like take them out. He's going back to I believe she's FBI or maybe CIA. He's trying to talk to his old boss and tell her about how he really wants to dig back down into it. So then eventually he runs across Huey, because he's like, hey, you're on the end. They've done you wrong. Maybe you and I can team up and we can go after them. And so he sends him in when Huey's going in to get his apology from A-Train, and he's got some taps to put in so they can listen in on what they're saying. And it kind of works, but the translucent is watching, because that's what he does. He turns invisible and he watches people. And so, or he activates his reflection of light to be invisible, and he watches people. So he realizes that Huey is bugging the place. And so he follows him back to his electronics store, beats him up. Billy comes in, knocks out Translucent. They're putting him in the trunk, and they're taking him to a secure location. And that's where we run into Frenchie. And Frenchie Billy goes to Frenchie. Billy Butcher goes to Frenchie, and he's like, I need your help. I've got a soup. He opens up the thing. Of course, Translucent is not dead, so now Translucent's seeing Frenchie. So now Frenchie's in on it, because if Translucent gets away, he can snitch on all of them and they'll all be in trouble. So now they're getting Frenchie's help, and Frenchie's trying to devise, like I said, he's really smart. He's trying to devise a way to figure out how they can like get through that carbon shield, because it's so hard, like a diamond, to actually like hurt Translucent in order to kill him if they need to, in case he wants to talk and run away, or at least get some information from him. And they know that they need some some leverage in order to be able to do that. So they're torturing Translucent, and then Frenchie, the genius, has the idea. He knocks Translucent out, and he shoves some dynamite up his butt, and he's like, I knew that was the way. I had to get it in there, and couldn't get you to swallow it because you would throw it up. But this way, if I knocked you out and stuck it in you, you wouldn't be able to get it out quickly, at least. So then Homelander is realizing he's concerned, because Homelander is a master manipulator. He wants to be in on everything. He's like, where is Translucent? We haven't seen him. Nobody's worried about Translucent. They're bringing in Starlight. They're dealing with the stuff with the Deep. They're going through all these other things, trying to get this deal with the government to be able to have soups in the military, because obviously that does not present a fair advantage to have these superheroes in the military. So so far they've been banned. They're trying to get them in there because they want the contracts, they want the money, they want to be able to do the franchises. Because another part of this Vought is that they're all the movies, like all these superhero movies that we're seeing, like this time, because the superheroes are real in this universe, this company, which would be like Stark Enterprises, is the one who's making the movies, making the merchandise, and therefore making the money coming from it. And they're trying to keep that money coming in. So they're like, we know we can get you out there. That'll be even more movies. That'll be even more merchandise. That'll be even more contracts with the government, with other governments, more deals, all of this stuff. Like they're just trying to secure the bag. So Homelander is like, though, he's got to keep all his ducks in a row. He's got to keep everybody together. Nobody gets out of like line. And if they do, Homelander puts them back in it because, like I said, he's a little off. So he's noticing Translucent's gone. He wants to go look for him. He does. He runs into Frenchie. He runs into Billy Butcher. He runs into Huey's in there with them. And he's like, where is he? He's like, I feel like he's here. He can't find him because they do a diversion. So Frenchie goes burned. And so he blows up his place to create a diversion. And so then Translucent is getting out. He's gotten out of his cage that they had him in. And he's just like, he calls out Huey and he's like, you're not going to do anything. You don't have that personality. Like, I know you, I watch people, I know people, and I know that you're not the type who's going to be able to do something like that. And he thought he was right. He thought he knew them, and Huey blows him up. First kill for the show. And so we go through this, like, again, more ambiguity of doing the thing to protect yourself and protect others, even though you're harming and killing, in this case, someone else. And so that's kind of like just a bit of like the first part of this, but we get into this whole like, what happened to Billy's wife? What happened to Becca Butcher? Where is she? 8 years. She's been gone. No one knows where she is. We have the Homelander who's trying to keep everything together. We have Starlight who's trying to find out who she is. Wonder Woman who's just want to be able to be herself. A-Train who's in fear of losing his role and his idea. I mean, the identity, like that's so much a part of the story here. The grief. How do we deal with grief? Do we go with revenge? Are we just angry? Are we depressed? Do we try to just, move on and forget what's happened to us? Do we try to become ultra controlling of each other and our environment? Do we become emotionally unattached? Like, I think that's one of the things with Homelander. Either he's a sociopath or he is just so like unable to be in touch with what's going on with his feelings that he is just completely unhinged from the understanding that what he does causes pain to other people. We have betrayal, we have loss, and we have healing. Like, how do you heal from that? And a big part of that is showing the need for connection. Because with Starlight, she connects with Huey, and that builds this bond between these groups that technically Huey is really mad at these superheroes, particularly A-Train, because what they've done and how they killed his girlfriend. But then he has met someone who is in this group, and he has feelings for her, and he sees that she's a really good person, and he sees the struggles that she's going through in being a superhero, but also being a woman and being a human and being in our society. And like, it builds this bond between them. We see like with Kimiko and how she has her abilities and how she becomes a part of the group. And even though she's a soup, how like not all soups are evil, are bad, are corrupt, and how what has happened to them has created them and put them where they are today and with what they're doing today. So we get to really see like healing through connection, healing through embracing your truth, embracing yourself, following your path. And we see the power of truth and love and what will come from that. The ending was, I was like, oh snap, what's going to happen next? I'm excited. I haven't read the comics. I don't think I'll read the comics. If you want to know more about what they find out about Butcher's wife, Becca, if you want to find out more about what Starlight does at the end, what happens to A-Train, what happens to the Deep, the decisions that are made, I definitely say go check it out. It's really good. I'm excited to see what comes from it. And you can learn a little bit more about Compound V and how the soups came to be. it's a good show. So I'll definitely probably check out season 2 when that comes out. And I might dig a little bit more deeper into this, but I don't think I will. I think I'm good. And I like where this is going. Oh, one more character to talk about. Madeline Stillwell. Because there is some weird thing going on between her and Homelander. Because Madam Stillwell is the vice president of Bot Enterprises, and she has a baby, and so she's breastfeeding the baby. She's what's it called? Doing pumping herself at work because so she can have milk for the baby. Homelander is like staring through walls because he can see through walls and watching her, and like they have this whole weird like mommy dynamic thing going on, and it's just like I was like, I don't really know what's going on with this, but it's a little strange, and I think it speaks to the issues going on with Homelander and how maybe really he just misses that human connection as well that they all are having issues with. So, anyways, that was it. That's all I have to say about this. So let me know what you all think, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.